thank you for joining me for today's video. If we haven't met before, I am Imogen and it's really nice to meet you. This is my channel where I talk about all things to do with rituals, pagan rituals, spirituality, religion, mythology, because those are all the things that just really interest me and excite me. If you have seen any of my videos before, then you'll know that I like to talk about rituals quite a lot, and the Wheel of the Year rituals in particular. And hopefully you have noticed on my videos that I never ever tell you need to go out and buy something. And this is something, it's a message that's really important now more than ever, because regardless of your financial situation, I wholeheartedly believe that being spiritual and having these rituals and practices and following your own path, whatever that may be, does not require you to spend money. Not even a penny. There's no requirement to spend money. And I think that I really want to drive this message home right now, because as consumerism gets hold of, and capitalism gets hold of this trend of people being more spiritual and people getting into the witchcraft stuff and the rituals and the paganism, capitalism is getting its claws in and telling you you can't do it right unless you buy X, Y and Z, and it's just not true. It's not true. None of it is true. And I'm going to go through some alternatives you can have in this video, and I'm going to just try and drive home why it's so important that you don't get wrapped up in the consumerism and what to watch out for. So particularly now, we have to deal with social media, and with social media comes the obvious issue of comparison and comparing yourself with everybody you see on social media. And regardless of how conscious you are about it, it's very, very difficult not to get involved in some way, and you may see these beautiful curated images and videos of people's lives that show obviously just the one aspect, and often these people will have beautiful clothes or amazing bits and pieces, jewellery, crystals, oracle cards, books, and all of it just stunningly beautiful and aesthetic. And that doesn't make them any better at these rituals than you or I, and it's often done to get you to buy something, which I want to say is absolutely fine, but it's not necessary. That's the point. The point is none of it's necessary. And I want to start by talking about the old favourite, crystals. Now, for me, this is a complicated one because I've worked with crystals for many years. I have trained in crystal healing and crystal therapy. I used to, in a previous life, buy and sell crystals online and in person. I also still host crystal workshops to this day, telling people about crystals, how to use them, how to benefit from them. But it's become more into my conscious that crystals, as beautiful as they are part of the earth, and I've always been aware that they need to be ethically sourced, which is the most important thing. If you're buying crystals from Amazon or from these bargain websites like Temu, I think is one, Wish, eBay, they're very, very likely not to be ethically sourced. Now, what that means is that it is depleting the planet of its resources. These crystals are naturally formed within the earth, so every time they are mined, we're depleting the planet of some of its resources. And yes, they're beautiful, they're stunning, and they have these vibrational qualities, but I'm going to argue and say so do a lot of natural things that we can go and collect for free and work with, and they aren't going to, leave us with less money and leave the earth with less of its necessary resources. Now, with things like mining as well, you have to consider the actual act of mining, who's involved, the area it's involved in, the people that would be doing it. And another thing is with crystals, if they are soaking up all the energy around them, then all this negative energy from the mining industry of crystals is going to cause it to be soaking up all this negative energy. And so, if you have crystals, I'm not saying throw them out and get rid of them. I still have many. But what I'm saying is try and source them secondhand is a really good idea. If you have some that you're not using, give them away to people who might be interested in them or might be beginning to work with them. Or give them to charity shops or sell them on secondhand websites. And things that have similar vibrational qualities would be stones, pebbles off the beach. Again, don't go crazy, you don't have to take loads of them, but just a few and work with them intentionally. Stones out of your garden, stones from a river. Some areas have beautiful quartz pathways and things like that, and quartz rocks, and often bits will chip off, and you can get quartz that way rather than paying a lot of money for it in a shop. Also seashells and things that we just collect from the earth. At this time of year, it's great to work with twigs, leaves that have fallen, fruits and berries, and stones, conkers, and create your own practice with those things instead, possibly. And again, I'm not saying give up on the crystals, but I'm saying really, really think hard about what effect it has in many ways. Another quick little note I want to make is about what kind of practitioners you're working with, and I just want you to be aware of the potential scams out there, particularly if you're on social media. There's a lot of people who will send you messages and so on saying that they have a message for you. And obviously scams like this have been around for a long time, but now they're just more obvious because they're everywhere on social media. Never ever respond to someone who contacts you. It should be a decision that you make to contact somebody with regards to a reading or any kind of healing or anything like that. Also, go by word of mouth, ask around if anyone has any recommendations of people for readings or healings. That's a really great way to do it. And just be aware of the amount of money that you might be spending, and also use resources that are free. There's resources on YouTube is a great place for seeking out meditations and even sound healings, and even readings. People do readings on there, and there's so many resources on there. So if you want to, you could literally never spend any money on this. I'm saying this as a healer. You do have everything you need within yourself, and it's important to recognise that you are the authority and you are the power. And yeah, you can go about it in many ways. There are certain things you can do yourself that are healing without needing to go and get healing, such as being outdoors, being out in nature, being really conscious, following meditations online that are free, and spending time with loved ones and family, and getting together with a circle of friends and just simply talking. talking about gratitude, talking about what you want to achieve, and just clearing your energy by doing that. Cleansing can be done with sound, through even videos on YouTube, but bells or any kind of music or singing is going to be cleansing and healing. There are a multitude of free or very little low-cost ways you can indulge in these things that are going to help you along your journey and to help you to feel better. And my highest recommendation is to get out in nature, to allow nature to cleanse you and to energise you. Even if it's raining, rain is great for cleansing. If it's really windy, that's really energising. The sun obviously is really energising as well. There's always lots of different experiences you can have out in nature, and if you can find any sacred sites nearby, then even better. One thing I am guilty of, and have been more so even in the past, is buying into lots of oracle card decks and tarot decks. And the ones that I have now, I adore and I use them daily. I use them a lot, so for me this is one of the necessities. But I am going to stop buying them because you get to a point where you're just getting the same similar messages and things, and as much as they label different things, you know that there's always a card to do with this and there's a card to do with that, and they look different and they have different names, but it's the same messages. Tarot decks are always the same, so if you find one you love, then stick with it. You know, you're really buying into the artwork there, which is great if the artist is paid fairly, so you know that is something that is kind of a good thing. But again, when you have your deck that you love that means the world to you, you don't need to keep getting more and spending more money on it. If you do buy your own tarot and oracle card decks and you learn how to read and you're really feeling comfortable and confident with that, then that is money that you wouldn't be then spending on a reader. So that's quite a good way to make a saving as well. You can spend so much money on beautiful cards, but they are no better than the usual Rider-Waite deck that is the kind of basic, and that one is a really great one for people who are learning because the images are really easy to read. Sometimes when you get into the ones that are more artistic, the images are harder to read and therefore it's harder to interpret and it's very hard to learn, and therefore, you know, it's potentially better, particularly to begin with, to get the original ones. And also, when you use tarot a lot and when you really love it, it's going to get battered around. It's going to get moved around a lot. The cards are going to end up misshapen anyway. So, you know, you don't really want to be too precious about it. Again, if you have cards that aren't resonating with you, pass them on, sell them. And if you are on the lookout for cards, then try and find second-hand ones as well. I love to pass on an oracle deck when I have no more use for them, or a tarot deck, and my friends quite often end up with ones that I don't really feel connected to, which is one of the reasons again why I'm going to stop buying them, because more often than not, I don't have that deep connection with them anymore. And I have a few very special ones which I do have that with, and I don't need any more, that's for sure. And the last thing I'm going to come to is talking about books, because I'm a book addict. Maybe you can relate to that, especially when it comes to everything to do with spirituality and rituals and so on. With books, for me, for years, again, I'm talking about my experience, so I'm trying to save you the job of learning from your own mistakes, learn from mine instead. For years, I would buy all the books I wanted. I would collect them like treasures, and yeah, it's got to the point where I was buying them and then not necessarily relating to them, and so I kind of didn't really have a point in keeping them after I'd read them initially. And so what I've started to do is use the library. What a revelation! It's free and you can borrow books. I mean, it's crazy, isn't it? So I love going to my local library, and I often, when I hear of a book I want, I make a list. I check if they have it in my library. Sometimes you have to order it around from other libraries in the area, but it usually costs about £1 to order it in, which is fine. And if it's something that I really, really resonate with and I really feel the need to read again, I will then purchase it usually from eBay secondhand if possible. So I tend not to buy that many books anymore, and again, I have many books which I treasure, and many that I've passed on over the years. Again, it's something else I love to do, is to gift books that I've no longer got any use for, or even just to lend them out to friends in the hope of one day getting them back, which sometimes doesn't happen, but that's fine. I could always ask, yeah. But yeah, when I've decided that I've read a book and I really need it, I will then purchase it, usually very cheaply on eBay. I tend not to use Amazon because I don't have an Amazon Prime membership, and therefore the postage can be quite expensive. But usually the postage on eBay is free, so that's another reason to use that. But I don't buy that many books anymore, and I'm fine with that because I can just keep getting them from the library. Or if I go around to a friend's house, I've done this before, and I see a book that I really fancy reading, I will ask them and borrow it and then take it back, and that's great too. So, either way, it's a win-win. And the books that I do have, I make an effort to reread them if I'm ever in a state of needing to find something in particular, or if I am stuck for a book and I can't think of what I want to read, I will revisit favourites. And therefore I don't really need to buy that many books anymore. And I try not to have that many possessions in general, because I like to think that I am going to be a free spirit and can just leave and move as much as I want to, which is very difficult to do when you have a lot of possessions. So if there's a book that I don't want and I can't think of anyone to pass it on to, I will resell it on eBay and make a little money myself to then put into more books or whatever else. And I hope that this video has helped. If there's any other sort of equipment or special bits and bobs that you think that you need to use for rituals or witchcraft, then let me know, and I'm sure we can think of some alternatives. Even reusing jars and things like that out of the kitchen. I mean, you can go and buy jars empty or you can buy jars with stuff in and just reuse them once they're empty. And again, I'm laughing because I have done all of these things and I'm hoping to help you. So I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I will catch you again soon. Bye.